Hello, good people. Welcome back. After learning, after our introduction to branches, we've done introduction, we've done types, we've done branches. Right now, it's high time we're going to move to our next subtopic, and we're going to learn about loops. So we're going to learn, we're going to introduce our new topic, loops in Python. There's another folder, so I'm going to call this. Okay, fine. There's another folder here called loops. So I will create a new folder. Sorry, I'll call it 4. We can use the notes from the other folder. So I don't want to read me. Sorry. So we're going to do an introduction to loops. So basically, as the name suggests, or then as the name says, a loop is something going in circular, repeating itself. So before we give any example in a program way or in Python, let's do an example whereby let's say you have a baby, or there's a baby. Okay, I don't know if most of you are well conversant with babies. Okay, let's use a baby. So once you have a baby at your back, a small baby, so what you're going to do is you want the baby sleep, right? You want the baby sleep. So you want the baby sleep. So what you're going to do, let me do this. So what you're going to do is take the baby in cycle until she sleeps. So take the baby in cycles, or basically around the block, or around your house, or around the house until he sleeps, until the baby sleeps. So what makes you go around the house? So basically you're going to check if the baby is asleep. So if the baby is awake, go around, right? So as long as the baby is still awake, you will still go around. So now, but until the baby sleeps, then you can now go inside and lay her to sleep. Go inside, put her to bed, put the baby to bed. I hope this is a good introduction to how loops works. I've used an example of a baby in your back, right? So you're going to take the baby around the block, until when the baby sleeps, you take her to bed. So for the first round, she's still awake, you will go around again. She's still awake, go around. You're still awake, go around. Still awake, go around. Now until when the baby sleeps, now go to the house. Now this is now when our loop stops. So basically this is a loop. It's a loop. Maybe for 3-4 times. Then the 5th time the baby is asleep, then you go inside and then you put the baby to bed. Now that's a good explanation or introduction. So basically what I'm trying to the explanation of what a loop is. So in programming setup, right? So in a programming setup, so basically it's a program construct that repeatedly execute the loops statement. So basically we're going to discuss more on this, and then we'll give examples, but a good example I've just given just right here, right? So execute loop statement while the loops expression is true. I've just given an example whereby the baby is awake. So the baby is awake, which means the expression is still true, right? What happens when it turns to false? When false, right? When false, so basically when false it dies, right? Now the loop won't happen again. So the loop won't be there anymore. When false, the loop dies. Basically it won't execute anymore. So basically this statement go round. This statement whereby the baby is awake, you go round. The baby is awake, go round. The baby is awake, go round. Basically we are iterating, right? We're going round and round and round. So if I okay, let me just check on out the meaning of iterate. So according to Google, the meaning of the word iterate is to repeat an action process. So basically, according to Google, so to iterate is to repeat a process. Basically, okay, we're going to stop with the whereby it's to repeat an action, right? So we're interested in repeating an action. So for our point here, we have been repeating the action of baby being awake, go around. So this is the action we're repeating, we're going around. Baby's awake, go around. True, go around, true. Until the baby sleeps, and now you go inside and put the baby to bed. So I hope that's clear. We've said, okay, the process of repeating, or we say each time we go through a loop statement, we call that an iteration. I hope that makes sense. So it's iterate. You go back to the loop statement. I hope that's clear. And we've given a good example of what a loop does or how a loop is executed. I'm trying to see an example we can use here, but I hope the example about a baby makes sense. Another, so why are loops important, right? So someone would ask, why would we want loops, right? Amongst the importance of loops basically for us to avoid repetitive code, we use loop. So to avoid repetitive code, we would use loop to avoid repetitive code. Writing loops makes the program shorter and cleaner. So writing loops makes the program shorter and cleaner. Basically with loops you can, instead of writing 20 lines of code, you can write 5 lines of code. So that makes it shorter. So basically, and then as well, for when you want to go through lists, right? I hope you know the data structures like lists, arrays, strings, and the likes. So for you to iterate over that, we use loops, right? Structures. Another using project files. So I bet as we go along, we'll get to know more of this, or get to learn 1, 2, 3, or basically we're going to see how this comes to play. I hope that's clear. So basically, for a loop to execute, there should be steps which you follow. So basically you have to, okay, you can write that steps in a loop. Yeah. So basically what goes on in a loop, or what you initialize the loop, initialize a control variable, initialize a control variable, right? Test condition. So there should be a condition to be followed. Condition. Yeah. Another one. After you test the condition, you execute the loops body. Execute the loop body. So basically, all these we'll go through them as we do examples in our next recording. Loops body. After you execute the loops body, so basically that's if the condition is true, you update the control variable with the new value you got from executing the loops body. Then you just repeat, right? You keep repeating that until it's false. All that's clear of what we've covered on loops, our introduction to loops. I guess we're now going to cover examples of writing loops. For example, among the first examples we're going to cover is trying to count negative. Okay, if we have a list, we just want to count, let's say the negative values, right? So basically, how negative values we have negative values. We have to count the negative values in a list using a loop, right? So how would this work? Let's do, okay, actually let's just have an example. So basically we have a list. I'm going to call it numbers, right? Numbers. As we talked initially of how to create a list is stored in a square bracket, right? And we have the 5, -1, -1, -2, -3, These are the values in our list. -9, right? So we have a list of numbers. So we now want to start counting the negative values, right? So we'll initialize a counter. Let's say negative is equals to 0, right? So now we'll keep updating this as we do the count. So we're going to use a loop to go through our list and update our numbers. Go through this and so say 4. Okay, okay. This example I should have done it in our next after we've done examples of loops, but let's just use it as an example, right? Okay, 4. You can use any number here, but let's use now, right? In. You remember when we talked of in and not in, right? Membership. Yeah, if you haven't gone through membership, you can go through that in our previous recording. So now we would say for num in, right? It's there. Then we say if. Now, how do we check if a number is negative? Number is a negative if it's less than 0. So if num, what we just copy, what we just picked from the numbers, so is less than 0. Right? It's less than 0. What do we do if it's less than 0? Then we say our negative. Now this is what we are updating. Each time we go through a loop, we update +1 plus is equals to 1. This is the same as negative is equals to negative +1. So instead of doing that, we do negative plus is equals to 1, right? Then we can do a print. So basically that's just a simple. Then we just print our negative now. Our negative, right? So basically, I hope this is clear. We can try run this from our. We can call it loop 1. Loop 1.py. Yeah. And then we have a list of numbers. Negative. We went to 0. We've checked for in. Remember we used in for membership, right? If this is true, so let's see where we are. Let's go to loops. Then we do Python loop. Right? Basically, it gives us the answer as 4. If we go to our file, we can count the number of the negative values which are less than 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically, it keeps updating. So it will run fast. It updates. Okay, it will run through the numbers, right? It runs through it, finds 1, runs again, finds 2, 3, 4. So it gives update until it becomes false, then it stops. That's it for our introduction to loops. We're going to on our next class, we're going to cover introductions to while loops. Then we'll do for loops. Then exactly we'll do more examples on that. So thanks for your time. In case you have any question on loops, we can catch up and you can just let me know, then we can redo it. Thanks for your time and happy coding.